talking about the spat between France, the US, the UK and Australia. You and the European Union have rallied very much around France. So what has been your message to your American hosts today?
Well, more or less the same that the two presidents, President Macron and President Biden, agreed. It has been a lack of communication. The problem could have been avoided, at least partially, with a better reach out among the allies. At the end, the European Union member states are the better allies of the US. This has to be mended. We have to put in place a system that prevent these things happen again in the future. And also, they recognize the importance for the European Union member states to build up a military force according with their responsibilities, which can act as a complementary to NATO. These two things, I think, are very important, and this is one of the lessons that we have to take out of these events.
And when you say steps are going to be taken to make sure this doesn't happen again, what sort of steps might we be talking about?
Well, look, we need to be in better communication. And if one member of the alliance builds an alliance with others, the others should know about it, especially a country like France, who has a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific. They have territories there, or the European Union as a whole. The same day that this alliance was announced, together with the breaking down of the Submarine deal, we in Brussels, we were presenting our Indo-Pacific strategy, without knowing that at the same day, at the same hour, from Washington and Canberra, they went to go to announce such an important thing as this military defense agreement. This kind of thing has to be avoided. We have to know better what is on, because this kind of agreement has not been cooked in a single day. It has been working on it for quite a long time without knowing anything from the other side, from the allies. And the fact that you present together at the same time the alliance and the submarine deal creates a certain understandable unease from the part of France. But this is not just a French problem. As the foreign affairs ministers agreed on the last Foreign Affairs Council, this is something that touches the European Union as a whole.
We heard the French foreign minister telling his US opposite number that France wants actions, not words. I'm just wondering, what sort of actions do you think he wants to see?
Well, I suppose he is referring to the implementation of this announcement. Me too, I want that this announcement be followed by concrete steps. We have a structured dialogue, US-EU on China. We have a structured political dialogue, EU-US on technology and trade. We should have an EU-US structured political dialogue on security and defense. Someone says, well, for that is NATO. Well, NATO is not exactly the same thing. Inside NATO, there are states which are not members of the European Union, and there are members of the European Union who are not members of NATO. So the dialogue between the European Union, the Europeans at large, and the US has to be according with a precise, well-defined, permanent structure of reaching out to each other. This would have been preventing these kind of things.
This miscommunication, as you've characterized it, this spat between France and Europe and the United States, isn't a one-off, is it? Because when we look at the disastrous endgame in Afghanistan, that all seemed to happen very much on America's terms. There was hardly an opportunity of anyone else to put their opinion on the table. And it really seems that Europe is being overlooked by Washington. And I want to ask you, why do you think this is happening?
Well, I have to say this is not a problem with the current administration. It was the previous administration who decided unilaterally to sit and negotiate with the Taliban and agreed on them on a calendar-based withdrawal. without consulting and without letting participate not only the allies that were there also with their troops, but not even the Afghan government itself. This was the previous administration who did that, and certainly we were not happy. Sometimes Europeans don't dare to express clearly that they have to be taken into account, but time is changing. If the Europeans want to have a voice in the geopolitical stage, this voice has to be heard through a channel, and that's what we need, a channel of communication, in order to be better partners, in order to be better allies.
And a European army, just to pick up on what you were saying earlier.
European army, you know, I don't like precisely these terms, because it means like if the national armies of the nation state of Europe would have to disappear or merge all of them on a single European army. Well, this thing is not going to happen. What we need is to pull a certain part of our military capacities in order to be able to act together. It is not an European army, but is to give to the Europeans, as an institution, a certain military capacity. A military capacity that has to be understood as a complement to NATO. I want to repeat it once and again because I think it's important not to mislead anyone. It's not a substitute to NATO, it's not against NATO, it's, as President Biden and Macron said, in complement to NATO.
You've been meeting with Iran's new foreign minister. I'd like to ask you how the talks went and whether they left you feeling optimistic that nuclear negotiations might resume soon.
Exactly. Nuclear negotiations, in order to make the nuclear deal to work again, may resume soon. What does it mean, soon? I don't know, but it was a clear will from the Iranian side to restart negotiations soon. And this clear will for me was authentic, was a honest approach, and I hope that, yes, these talks will resume soon in Vienna. This minister, which was my counterpart yesterday in a long talk, has been in office for 28 days. Yes, the president of Iran was elected many weeks ago, but the minister is in office for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So give him a little bit more of time, not much more, but I think that the talks will resume soon.
Did you pick up on any? Did you pick up on any marked change in Iran's position or the language they were using versus the sort of language being used by the previous foreign minister, for example?
In fact, we didn't go into substance. They have to study the file, and it was not a negotiation because it's not up to me to negotiate. The negotiation of this nuclear deal is between Iran on one side and the international community on the other side, represented by China, Russia, and some member states of the European Union, plus the UK, that now is not a member of the European Union. My role is just to coordinate the talks, to be in the middle and to try to push for both parts, the international community, repeat, Russia, China, and member states, and Iran, to look for a new arrangement, because I have to remember that this deal was working well, and the Trump administration broke it unilaterally, and I think that nothing good came from this decision.
Another meeting you've had there, you've met, you seem to have met lots of people, Mr. Borrell, but one of the other meetings you've had has been with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. What was your message to him?
My message was quite clear, the same one that I conveyed to him in previous occasion. We disagree in several important issues, Ukraine, Crimea, human rights, political systems, and this disagreement is structural. We are not going to solve it. We certainly disagree. But apart from this disagreement, there are many other issues in which we should work together in order to make our relationship more predictable and less conflictual. The CCPOA, for example, is good. Russia is there, and by the way, is a very cooperative member of the board. The situation in Mali, the Russians are in Central African Republic, and it seems that the Wagner company are looking to have a role in Mali. The Middle East, peace process, the situation in the Gulf, the Arctic, not to say about climate change and energy supplies to Europe. These things cannot be solved without a strong link, strong engagement between the European Union and Russia. So if they are ready to discuss about it and cooperate, we are. Let's put aside the things that are, by the time being, difficult to agree, and let's engage in something that can be useful to both parts.
Okay, well, I know you've had a very busy day, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for sparing us the time to talk about lots of different topics. The